con Philippe Hardy, quindi fra poco dovreste vedere Philippe Hardy, il designer di Cortez. Ecco, siamo in live, vado anche a mettere la diretta. Adesso dovreste vedere, datemi anche un ok come live, ragazzi. Bene, ascolto. Philippe, well, hi Philippe, welcome. As I told you previously, I'm going to speak Italian for 5 minutes, yes, and then we can start the interview. So don't worry. At the same time, I'm going to check the view on your war game. Let me see. Well, perfect. Everything runs at the moment. Everything works at the moment. Well, good idea. Quindi ragazzi, bene, benvenuti al podcast come al solito a Giannizzero Nero, e oggi trasmettiamo anche, come potete vedere, con Philippe Hardy, il nostro ospite d'onore, che ci presenterà il suo gioco Cortez, ma prima avremo modo di parlare con lui della sua vita, di quello che ha fatto, di quello che farà, e fra l'altro l'ho anche coinvolto nel discorso Wargame Education, sono molto contento per questo. E prima di tutto volevo ringraziare tutti per le grandi, veramente, ciao Paolo, benvenuto, gli affetti, le grandi lettere che mi avete inviato per non smettere, per impedirmi di smettere di fare il Giannizzero Nero. Devo dire che francamente datemi ancora tempo, ma ben trovato Paolo da Imola, ma non ho una Ferrari. Paolo, che macchina hai? Ciao Stefano. Devo dire che le vostre email che mi sono giunte, diciamo, ciao Fersu, ciao Stefano Giombini, un saluto a tutti. Dicevo, devo dire che i tanti messaggi che ho ricevuto, veramente non pensavo, alla fine uno ci pensa, riflette, e vi posso già dire che probabilmente tornerò lunedì col Giannizzero. Non dico come se non fosse successo nulla, ma ho visto che non solo è importante per me, ma è importante anche per tutti voi, per quelle veramente centinaia di persone che mi hanno scritto, e il che mi ha fatto veramente pensare su quello che sto facendo. Comunque, cercherò anche di far capire, perché poi alla fine, ragazzi, il mio scontento, perché abbiamo, in questo caso parlo in prima persona, dei denigratori, non lo so, e cercherò di convincere anche loro, ragazzi, quello devo fare. Però lunedì tornerò con un argomento leggero, in maniera tale da parlarne tranquillamente. Parleremo di Commands and Colors, Napoleonics, dato che se ne parla tanto, ma non vedo mai poi un programma dedicato. Quindi sicuramente lunedì, ragazzi, saremo di nuovo qui sul Giannizzero. Lo chiuderò la terza stagione, come ho fatto con le altre 2 stagioni, all'episodio numero 100, e poi ci ritroveremo a settembre, ragazzi, perché ho l'impressione che adesso non mi fate più respirare, ma penso che per pochi, anche se fosse solo 30, è importante questo momento in cui ci troviamo, e dunque non smetterò. Quindi questo era una cosa che tenevo a dire. Ieri sera, grande partita Successors, dato che vogliamo veramente far giocare più che chiacchierare, che va bene anche parlare ma bisogna far giocare e leggere la parola fine. Quindi grazie Emiliano col suo server, e Pierluigi che ha partecipato, ciao Max, perché il server funziona molto bene, e spero con l'apporto di tutti di spingerlo, di farlo crescere. Basta che arriviamo a una 70ina di giocatori, secondo me facciamo grandi cose, e poi serve anche per diffondere. Ora, signori, vado a fare l'intervista con Philippe, il nostro ospite d'onore. Già l'ho fatto attendere troppo. Don't worry, Philippe, you are alive. I don't want you to wait too long, okay. So don't worry. Time to start our first interview. For me, it's the first interview with an European, or better, French designer.
It's an honor.
Yes, French designer for the first time that is attending the Black Janissary. And Philippe, we have already prepared our questions. Yes. So obviously, how can we start? Well, by who is Philippe Hardy? Philippe,
Okay.
tell me or tell us something about your life also with the word games. You're up.
Okay, you have time for that.
Yeah.
First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me to your show. This is the first time that I am invited by Italian wargamers.
You are a famous man now.
Do you want to translate now?
No, don't worry. I think that, the average war gamer, understand English. I'm
Okay.
going to translate when you are, making long,
Okay.
long passages. Don't worry. Let's.
Okay, let's introduce myself. I am 54, younger than you. I've been playing wargame for 40 years. I started
Yeah.
14, and I work on my own as an independent consultant at the moment since 2014. And I used to work for the chemical and pharmaceutical industry as in marketing or business development area.
Well, give me time to translate what you
Yeah.
have just said, Philippe. Bene, avete capito in ogni caso, ora lavora in proprio, è un consultant, quindi diciamo lavora come consulente in questo caso ciao Marco, benvenuto. Abbiamo anche, ragazzi, la diretta sul video, quindi devo salutare anche Marco. Dicevo, gioca a Wargame da quando ha 14 anni. Like me, Philippe, I started when I was 14, so
Yes.
the same.
The
Albeit
same.
you are younger than me, and this is not, I'm not so happy about that, but more or less we have been playing for a lot of time.
Yes.
And Philippe, so what about your life with the war games, your how you develop this sort of love for this hobby?
First of all, I like history.
Yeah.
And when I was young, I used to read, and I still read a lot of historical book. I have discovered wargaming with Squad Leader.
Squad Leader, I
yes,
see.
with Squad Leader. And the first game I bought was the Last Battles of Napoleon's from SPI.
Yes, NLB, Napoleon's Last Battles.
Yes. And designing games is quite new for me. Let's say that I started to design my first game 10 years ago.
Wow. Well, so I'm going to translate, Philippe.
Yes.
Thank you for you are concise, so you help me to translate quickly. Avete sentito? Chiaramente lui ha amato la storia, ha letto libri di storia. Il suo primo wargame è stato Squad Leader. E poi il wargame che è stato la base di tutti noi, cioè Napoleon's Last Battles, SPI, a wargame never forgotten, un wargame mai dimenticato. E poi da soli, only 10 years ago, Philippe ha iniziato a you have had an evolution, so you wanted to try the world of designing, e quindi 10 anni fa ha cominciato a fare designing e ha cominciato a creare giochi. Well, so Philippe, 10 years ago you started to create, to design something. What about your first war game?
Yeah. My first war game was for a French magazine, Vae Victis.
Yeah.
Maybe you know it. And it was a solo game on a commando action during World War II.
I see.
And it was easy for me to develop a solo game because I didn't have to test a lot with other players. I could develop it by my own.
Yeah. So you are a lone ranger, you are a lone war gamer actually. Well, so avete capito, ha cominciato con un solo game, con un gioco in solitario sulla seconda guerra mondiale. Ovviamente la testata in cui scrivi è The Victis, come dicevo a Philippe, probabilmente the most important European magazine about wargaming, I think, e ha cominciato così con questo Easy Game. And then, Philippe,
Yes.
what about after your first solo game? What did you decide to do?
Okay. I love to let's say historical period that are not very well known, and especially with very few war games, you know. So I liked the Renaissance period and the 16th century, end of 15th and 16th century period in Europe, because it's a transition in the art of war. It's very interesting. So I wanted to develop a game on this period. And the game was on the French Wars of Religion.
I see. Well, avete capito, vado comunque a tradurre. Then we have a question for you, Philippe. Ovviamente il suo favorite historical period è Renaissance dato che, perché è interessato al Rinascimento? Perché ha avuto un change, la art war ha avuto un cambiamento in questo periodo e quindi ha cominciato con le guerre di religione appunto in Francia, che è un periodo che tutto sommato, Philippe, this period, well, I'm not so skilled in the knowledge of the French wars of religion, but before proceeding with this analysis, there is a question for you. Max is asking, well, have you ever met the French designer Christophe Bollinger?
No, I don't know him. What he has designed. What he has designed.
Max, what did he design? What did he create about? Well, anyway, it's not a problem, Philippe. I don't know who Christophe Bollinger is. Please forgive me, but I don't know who he is. Well, anyway, Philippe,
we are not very much designers in France. You know, we are a small team, mainly dedicated to Vaevictis. And from time to time, we develop for other editors, other companies, mainly French ones, like Nuts Publishing or Exacim. But I don't know this guy. But you know that in France, designing games, I've started 40 years ago with Jean-Jacques Petit. And I think that you have from time to time a new designer. They come, they leave because they don't have too much time. But I don't know them all.
I see. Yes, in fact. Well, you cannot live with the designing of war games. So obviously you have the idea, you develop the game, but then you are going to do something else. So obviously there aren't many professional designers.
No.
I think it's not the same about the United States, but in every case, it's difficult living with the money that can come from the war gaming. Anyway, Philippe, let's continue with Renaissance, French wars of religion, and what about Cortés? So I think that I hit Cortés only 2 weeks ago, but I realized that it was an attempt to bind a strategic point of view with a tactical point of view. So let's try to, if you can, try to introduce your war game, and please focus on this choice that you made about strategy and also a tactical point of view.
Okay. Cortés is the fourth game of the same series, and the series is Gold and Steel. I have developed a war game for the end of the 15th century and the beginning of the 16th century, because this is a key moment in the changing of art of war. And there was very few war game on this topic. As far as I remember, there was one tactical game on the siege of Mexico from a magazine, Command Magazine, an American magazine, and a strategical game on the Conquistador from Richard Berg and from the Avalonil game company. So nothing was existing on this period on the conquest of Mexico, and especially nothing linking the strategic and the tactical part.
Yeah. Ok, I'm going to translate. Avete sentito chiaramente, sempre ricordando giochi storici come quelli Conquistador di Richard Berg e un altro che proviene da Command. Ovviamente Philippe ha notato che c'era, ciao Stefano, ciao Marino, che c'era una mancanza, ed è vero, in effetti io stavo cercando giusto un mese fa un gioco su Cortés e ho trovato The Victis, quindi lui ha cercato di riempire questo gap e secondo me ha fatto anche un bel tentativo di unire un punto di vista strategico con un punto di vista operazionale di singola battaglia. I was saying, Philippe, I added that beyond to fill a gap about a war game, about Cortés and his conquest. Well, I have added that 1 month ago I was looking for a game about this event, the conquest of Cortés, and I didn't find anything. And well, accidentally I found your war game.
Okay,
so,
good.
And I repeat, I think that the most important aspect of your war game is this attempt to, at first, well, the mapboard is a typical mapboard for a magazine. It would be great if we could have a larger mapboard, but we're speaking about magazine. But in spite of the size, well, you can play easily without any problem by moving your armies. But then I think that the good decision is to transform the battle, the strategical battle, in a real operational battle. And I would say that you also insert a lot of details in this pitch battle. Absolutely. Tell me something about that.
Okay. Because, you know, playing battles at a strategic level, it's for this period, I think that this is it's a pity because you have so many different tactics, so many different warriors, soldiers, and so on, that I thought that it was interesting to see what were the way they were fighting on the battlefield. So as you can see on the map, this is a strategic map. You can move armies with the leaders on this map. And when two armies are in the same area, the same zone, because this is a game with, you can see, without hexagons, but with zones. When two armies met in the same zone, you have two possibilities. You can run a battle or a siege. And for the battle, you take the counters from the strategic map, and you have to deploy them on
I'm going to show the battle, the page where you have to place the counters.
Yes, and this is a typical, let's say, deployment of armies at this period, even for the pre-Columbian armies. You know, they have different lines. First, second, third line, and wings. Okay, so I wanted to have a deep look in the way the commanders of this period, the soldiers of this period, were fighting.
Well, I'm going to translate.
Yes.
Praticamente l'avete capito, lo vado a ribadire, ragazzi. c'è questo movimento delle armate che non possono muovere senza leader sulla mappa strategica. La mappa rappresenta chiaramente la parte sudamericana in cui Cortés ha compiuto la sua avanzata, e poi però nel momento in cui abbiamo due armate nemiche, cioè gli spagnoli e chiaramente diciamo le popolazioni locali che possono anche diventare alleate, perché c'è anche Philippe, there is also, we are going to speak about also a diplomacy phase.
Yes, of course.
Also a diplomacy phase. E quindi questo fatto di portare i counter su una mappa, diciamo, tattica, beh, è l'arricchimento del gioco. Secondo me è la parte più bella, perché non è solo strategico, cioè lui dedica anche molti dettagli alla battaglia. Philippe, I have added, beyond analyzing and explaining the rules that are at the base of your war game, well, you have inserted a lot of details about the use of precise cheats to give the, I don't know, the mechanics that can happen during the battle, you know? So I don't know, the sacrifice, the way to advance. So I think that this is another attempt to have a richer, a better war game.
Yes.
And please don't forget the diplomacy phase. You have, you haven't forgotten the diplomacy phase.
You're right. Okay, I'm going to focus on the diplomacy phase. Okay, during this period, you have always two main nations fighting each other with allies. Okay, and the diplomatic phase shows this evolution of diplomatic balance, diplomatic allies from the one side to the other side. What does it mean? It means that when you have an ally with you, you have all his units and his resource points. And the way to keep the allies with you is to win battles or win siege or to take control of areas.
Yeah, I'm going to translate. Avete sentito chiaramente questo aspetto diplomatico e come viene alterata la diplomazia quando vincete delle battaglie o quando controllate una determinata zona. Ovviamente io non sono bravo, ma non so, Philippe, about the pronunciation of the peoples that you find, oh well, Tlaxcala, we have, I don't know.
Difficult.
It's really difficult to pronounce.
You have Texcoco. Mexico is the main fighter. So, okay, the main nation with Texcoco, Tlacopan, Tlaxcala, and other Indian allies.
Well, Triple Alliance, if you want to sum up, the Triple Alliance against the Spanish, but this alliance could change in the game, so we can have a move about the alliance. But, Philippe...
Yes, just one thing. Yes, Mauro, yes.
Well, I want to, at the moment, put aside the war game. Why? Because I want to continue our interview about what? About a negative comment coming from Board Game Geek, you know. But I think that, please remember, I'm a little provocative. Well, I found only really few negative comments about, so don't worry. But usually this guy said, or better, wrote, usually I don't like operational games where I have to deep into tactical battles. So how would you reply to this, well, apparent criticism?
Okay. I'm always surprised because when you have a game, you know exactly what are the rules, and if you don't like the rules, you leave the game. It's as if you would play solo games, saying that you don't like it because it's solo. Anyway, what I would say is that there is a possibility to speed up the battle resolution without the tactical map. So you have a rule in the rule is 10.2. It's the accelerated battle procedure, and you just have to make a ratio between the combat factor from one side and the other one. You throw a die and you apply the result on the combat table, and it's very quick. It's a way to shorten the battle resolution without diving into the too many details.
Yes, by putting aside the tactical mapboard. Vado a ribadire, c'è anche una procedura, a procedure, che permette di accorciare la battaglia, e quindi è una sua scelta, ma io direi, e adesso devo andare a dire anche a Philippe, che tutto sommato questo Cortés, malgrado sia un gioco da rivista, in ogni caso Philippe ha cercato di dare una completa analisi di quello che è stato, secondo lui, la conquista di Cortés, cioè non solo strategicamente, ma anche sul modo di combattere. Philippe, I have added that beyond this sort of possibility, chance to get the battles a little shorter, well, I think that you have tried not only to give your strategical point of view, but you have tried to give a complete point of view, both from a general point of view, but also by considering the way that Cortés and the other peoples fought, or not. What do you think about?
Yes, I try to, when I play a war game, I like to have very how can I say? You have to use the real tactics of this period. Okay, it must be very immersive. You must feel like the Indians or like the Spanish conquistador at this period. This is the reason why I have introduced the tactical sheets. You know, you have to choose before the battles different tactics that are represented by these small cheats, you know, and you
use it, harassment, zigzag, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So you have a I don't remember exactly the number, but 7 tactical sheets for the Indians, and the same amount for the conquistador, for the Spanish, and you choose a certain number at the beginning. This number depends of the tactical capacity of your chief, you know.
Yes.
And okay, you can translate if you want, Mauro.
Beh, yes, allora avete capito, vado a ripetere, è chiaro che il suo punto di vista anche si è soffermato sul modo di combattere, che è un modo di combattere che rappresenta, come l'ha detto prima, un cambio rispetto al Medioevo, quindi non poteva non tralasciare questi dettagli per quanto riguarda il modo di combattere, e per rappresentarlo ha inserito tutti questi cheat che voi decidete di utilizzare all'inizio di ogni battaglia, e soprattutto avete prima degli eventi random, degli eventi casuali, e poi la scelta dei marker tattici. Philippe, I have just said that beyond the tactical markers, you have also used the random events. Obviously, so it's not only important the strategic analysis, but it's also important to deal with the way of fighting, that it's a sort of change if we compare it to the previous age, that is the Middle Ages. So you wanted to highlight, to underline this new way of fighting, this new warfare.
Absolutely. As I told you, this is a main change in the art of war, and in this game, especially, you have 2 worlds fighting each other. I would say our world, European one, with all the tacticals coming from mainly from the Italian wars, you know, and pre-Columbian tactics. So it's a real confrontation between two worlds and two way of fighting, and this is how can I say, this is shown by these tactical markers.
Well, I'm going to translate. Yeah. Ecco, lui oltre a questo cambiamento nell'arte della guerra italiana, in altre tipologie di combattimento in Europa, ha voluto anche mettere l'accento su questo modo di combattere pre-colombiana, e per fare questo ha inserito i suoi tactical markers. Philippe, in fact, by listing the tactical markers that you have created, I find the war dogs, the harassment, the zigzag, that can be used only by the Indians. Yes. Why? Because you have also made a difference between the way of fighting of the Indians, that obviously they are different from the Spanish tactics.
Absolutely.
Shock to the death to the commander, enveloping in the units. So I find that there is a lot of tactical markers, yes, that make the game really an attempt to portray, to represent these pre-Columbian tactics.
Absolutely. What is very important to understand is that the Indian tactics and the Indian army was really the words are missing.
Different.
Yes,
or
they were different. They were very good, very well organized, and the generals were good generals with many tactics, you know, and the way they were fighting in their country was very elaborate, you know. Not only the Spanish have a very strong army and strong tactics and with elaborate tactics, but the Aztecs as well. This is what I want to show with these tactical markers.
Yes, I see. Ecco, è proprio questo. Noi di solito pensiamo che gli indiani, gli aztechi non sapevano combattere, invece Philippe sta dicendo proprio di opposite. No, guarda, gli spagnoli avevano le loro tattiche, ma anche gli indiani avevano delle elaborated, delle tattiche elaborate, delle studied tactics. Quindi questo uso dei markers ha voluto proprio rimarcare che non erano proprio... non era solo una human wave. It wasn't only a human wave of Indians, but they tried to apply their tactics according to their weapons, obviously.
And what is very interesting is that the Mexican conquest start in 1519 to 1521, and the Aztecs they learned how to fight the Spanish conquistadors, because they have developed new tactics such as zigzag, for example. What does it mean, zigzag? They know that if they go straight forward,
towards the front line,
they will be killed by arquebus fires. So they went zigzagging from their line to the Spanish line, you know. So they have learned how to fight back the conquistadors, you know. That's very interesting. So zigzag is a new tactics for fighting the European, you know.
Ok, avete ascoltato, vado a tradurre comunque per precisione, cioè in questo caso non dobbiamo pensare solo a, come dicevo, a orde di indiani che andavano all'attacco diritti verso la linea di fuoco, no, erano indiani che avevano studiato come combattevano gli spagnoli, e quindi Philippe metteva in risalto questa tattica dello zigzag. In realtà the zigzag could be used also during the Second World War. It's not different, you know. You are advancing and you do the same. E quindi ecco cosa lui ha voluto fare. but I repeat, I highlight this attempt to reproduce, to create the tactics of the Aztecs, of these Indians, unless we didn't know anything about that. So congrats for this attempt, Philippe.
Thank you.
And Philippe,
one more thing regarding the battles, because I have two kinds of combat tables, you know, because
yes.
There is the flower war and the war to death combat table, because the wars before the coming of the conquistadores was not for killing each other. The way they fight was to take prisoners for sacrificing them on their temples, you know. And this was called the flower war. You take prisoners.
Flower war, yes.
Okay. And at the beginning of the war against the Spanish, they wanted to take prisoner only for sacrificing them. And so this is not very lethal, you know, it's not very mortal at the beginning. But at the end of the conquest, in 1521, for example, they understood that the Spanish were here for destroying their civilization, so they were trying to kill on the field the Spanish. So there is a new table, more lethal, let's say.
Ok, avete capito? Quindi questo gioco ha due tabelle di combattimento, ma perché? Proprio per questo amore del dettaglio che Philippe Hardy ha usato nel suo gioco. Una è una combat table meno sanguinosa, perché andava a rappresentare questi indiani che catturavano, prendevano i prigionieri e poi li andavano a sacrificare nel loro tempio. In ogni caso morivano, ma morivano in a different way. They died in a different way, in every case.
Yes,
on the contrary, poi si sono resi conto che gli spagnoli erano lì per distruggerli, per annientarli, e in questo caso la seconda tabella di combattimento, War to the Death, tende proprio a rappresentare questa maggiore more losses. Why? Because the Indians had understood that the Spanish army was there to annihilate them, to destroy them.
Yeah.
So Philippe ha voluto rappresentare questo change also during this war between Cortés e gli Indians and gli Aztecs. Philippe, I want to connect what we have just said about Cortés. Why? Because obviously my question number 5 is about the word game that we can use as a tool to teach history. And obviously, it's my opinion that this game, this precise game, could be used in a classroom, you know. Anyway, I think that it needs to be a little simplified. Why? Because I think that it's not a word game for the neophyte, for the newbie, but on the contrary, I think that your word game is for a good skill word game. Why? Yes. Because you have used a lot of details to represent in precisely what happened during that period. But in spite of that, what do you think about, and I think that we know the answer, but I want to hear from you, what about the possibility to use the word game as a tool to teach history? And from your point of view, if you have any experience about the word game in the classroom or in front of an audience that is interested to the word gaming. You're up.
Of course. Okay. As we have already talked about that regarding wargaming and education, Philippe Sabine, who was in charge of the strategic department, military strategic department of King's College, told me that the war game must be very simple. If you want to use them,
keep it simple.
For teaching.
Keep it simple. Philippe Sabine, keep it simple.
Yes, keep it simple. Exactly. So you're right. This kind of war game is very it's too complicated for teaching history in a classroom. But you have two ways for understanding or teaching. One way is to play with the game, which is one thing. The other one is to design your own war game. And I think that these are two different approaches, but with the same goal, teaching something. History, for example, strategy, politics, diplomacy, and so on.
Well, thank you, Philippe. I'm going to translate quickly. Okay, I and Philippe shares the love for Philippe Sabin, a sort of master of the wargaming used as a tool for educating. In ogni caso, ecco, lui ovviamente il suo wargame non è come, ecco, Simulating War, che è il nostro, it's our Bible. I would define that a Bible. The first book that we use to teach history, but not only history, but also, I always say, a series of competencies, if we want to use the European competencies. Ma in ogni caso il suo wargame non è così semplice, ma I always say, Philippe, that we can modify every war game to make it a little more simple and such way to use it in the classroom. It's not so difficult, I think. E quindi ha aggiunto che il wargame chiaramente deve essere più semplice per usarlo in una classroom, ma ha detto anche, e questo lo ripetiamo sempre, che Philippe Sabin sottolinea, certo tienilo semplice, ma più di questo puoi anche dire ai tuoi allievi la vostra idea, you can plan a war game about Cortés, lo puoi fare on your own by using your ideas, cioè non solo giocare, not only playing, but also creating, non solo giocare ma anche creare. E quindi è questo che I think that I and Philippe we are at the same level, we are on the same ship, we share this sort of opinion that creating is a sort of different dimension that can help to understand better history and every topics that is connected to the war game. But
let me say just one thing, Mauro. Yeah. I just want to say that I used to teach in a military academy in France.
Yeah.
This is the Saint-Cyr Academy. It's
Saint-Cyr.
Yes, it's very well known for it's a school for the officers of the French army, and I had the chance to go there several times for small intervention regarding how to design a war game. Okay, tactical or strategic war game, and we have done there a challenge with the different students. They were gathered in group of 2 or 3 or 4 persons, and the purpose of this course was to design a war game on a certain topic. And at the very end of the course, there was a challenge where the best design was selected, and maybe for later for a professional edition, you know. So this is a way to teach the strategy, the tactic, by designing your own war game, you know.
I see. Avete sentito? Vado a tradurre. Filippo ha avuto questa esperienza all'Accademia Militare di Saint-Cyr, che è una delle più famose, dove preparano gli ufficiali dell'esercito francese, e ha avuto modo di seguire quello che ha fatto Philippe Sabin. Si dividevano per gruppi e procedevano a creare il loro wargame. Questo ovviamente è strettamente collegato alla vita militare, ma per dire che in ogni caso il wargame applicato professionalmente dà, diciamo, adito a questi risultati. Vai all'accademia e crei i gruppi, gli permetti di formare, o meglio, disegnare, non disegnare, ma creare da loro quello che pensano di quel determinato episodio militare. Philippe, I was wondering about, by considering this experience that you had in this military academy, you know, Saint-Cyr, clear. What about Europe? Did you get good results, or you realize that probably you have to change something in the way to use the word game? Sort of curiosity that I'm having.
Yes, let's say that the results were quite different, because some young student, young officer were already aware about wargaming. Others they were not. So it was very contrasted,
Yeah.
But we had good design. Some design were, let's say, poorer, we could say, but we had a good design. And what is interesting is that they understood what was to improve in their design, what was good or less good, let's say. And they had another view about how to simulate the conflict, how to simulate the combat factor, and so on. So the result at the very end is always positive, And I used to intervene in companies and designing wargame for their own utilization. And it was not a war game, let's say, mainly business game. And designing and playing is always fruitful.
I see. Ecco, aggiunto, è chiaro che non ci sono stati tutti i risultati soddisfacenti, c'erano dei buoni wargame, dei wargame un po' meno buoni, ma in ogni caso I'd say that the objective was reached, so you had some positive results. On the contrary, Philippe, I would say the problem that I always underline when we try to use the word game in teaching history, but not only, I find that it's difficult to assess correctly the entire activity. Yeah. So it's difficult. Why? Because was I successful? Wasn't. But they really understood what I told them. So that could be a problem. The assessment, the final assessment of each activity connected to the word gaming.
Yes, I think that you have to focus on certain points. You if you want to teach by using war games, what do you want to teach first? Is it a global situation, political situation, diplomatic situation, a tactical situation? It's very difficult to simulate everything. So you have to focus on very few things. What is your purpose? If you want the students to understand a particular situation, you have to focus the design on this particular situation and try to keep avoiding complicated things such as details or things that will come and contribute to confuse the game. So you must keep it simple as a teaching tools.
Ecco, in pratica Philippe condivide, non è sempre facile, ovviamente per concludere questo fatto della valutazione devi focalizzare su certe tematiche e magari vedere cosa è uscito da quelle tematiche. Ovviamente io ragiono anche da teacher my reasoning is also due to my experience of teacher in the high school, where the guys are younger and guys, you don't have only to play. You have to learn something, and it's not always easy to understand if they are learning or they are only playing. That's a problem sometimes, Quindi dipende anche dall'audience. I think, Philippe, that it's easier teaching to an audience made up of military personnel, soldiers, and officers. It's a little more difficult when we are trying to teach to students that are not absolutely interested in wargaming, or we are trying to spread the wargaming. So obviously we have to calibrate. We
Yes.
have to. We have a precise audience in front of you. Well, we have to change something to transmit, to spread something. But in every case, Philippe, let's continue with our interview. Oh, 50 minutes of interview. Congrats, Philippe. We are having a long interview. Are you tired?
No, it's okay.
And obviously, Philippe, here in Italy, we are living a really new golden age. We remember the first golden age in the 80s. I think that you remember through that period. But since 2010, for the last 10 years in Italy, we are living a new golden age. Yes. What about France? What is happening over there?
I saw this golden age in Italy with a new editor like such as Europi Simulazioni.
Nicola Contardi is the boss of European Simulation.
Okay, there is a golden age in France too, because you already said that Vaevictis was a good magazine. I think that this is the 150th edition, and this magazine is existing for 25 years. So this is a very important for us. This magazine, it's a link for all of us, of all the wargaming players, and they are new editors with Nuts Publishing, for example, with Exasim, and I am trying to develop my own brand with serious historical games as well. I saw a lot of people buying war games from Europe or from the United States, of course. We can say that this is a second golden age, as you said already, but we have to think about if what are they doing with the games? Are they really playing, or are they collectors? This is a very important point.
Good job. Certo, avete capito, chiaro, anche in Francia c'è una golden age, molte persone acquistano, ci sono molti gruppi che giocano, ma Filippo ovviamente ha finito con are you only collecting? State solo collezionando o li giocate davvero? Philippe, I think by considering the sort of similarity between Italy and France, I think that by considering the explosion of war games, of the publishers, American publishers, but also European publishers, we don't have time to dedicate to a single war game. Why? Because we are approaching the war game and then we have other two new titles at your horizon. So that's a problem. That's really a big problem.
Exactly. So I think that personally, I buy regularly war games, but I don't have time to play them. I try to, but I prefer to spend my time designing games. What does it mean? Reading books on the topic, many books on the topic, and then after designing the games. So it takes very long time to me. So I think that the people, there are two kind of people, because all of us, all the wargamers today are 50 or more. They have good income, so they can spend a lot on their hobby, you know. And I think that for, let's say, 5 games bought, only 1 will be played. I think this is the balance.
I agree. Avete sentito, ovviamente Philippe ha riportato la sua personal experience dicendo che io preferisco ormai più crearli i giochi, ma perché? Perché mi prende un sacco di tempo leggere, analizzare e creare, quindi gioca di meno e crea di più. I think that you find a lot of satisfaction in creating a word game according to your ideas. E quindi questo è proprio quello che lui sta facendo. Philippe, I've been playing it for a lot of times, but I'm also a collector, you know, and I have a large collection. Why? Because I'm not buying games, but probably I think that one day I will be able to play them. Well, I don't believe that, you know. Why? Because if I stop now to buy war games, well, I think that I could play the 40% of my collection. Well, it's a sad story, but that's a story. Jason online sta dicendo, Jason from Canada, Philippe, is saying, I agree, and because you cannot meet with people, now I try to read more than playing. Well, the same about you. Many people, cannot play and prefers reading, open the word game, analyzing the setup. I think that opening the word game, setting up the counters, and analyze the rules. Well, that's an activity. We can consider that an activity, a typical activity.
Yeah. Absolutely, because you can reflect. If you have a military book with you, you can see the position and thinking about the strategy and so on. This is a way to enjoy the wargaming, of course.
Certo, questo it's a way to approach our hobby. È un altro, it's another way, un altro modo di approcciare il wargame che io apprezzo molto. I appreciate that a lot. Lo apprezzo molto. Ma our hobby has a lot of different variables, different aspects, and you can collect, you can read the books, and buy the games that is connected to that books and so on.
Exactly.
So, well, guys, please play, please create, please read, whatever you want is not a problem. And by considering the approach, Philippe, I don't know, have you ever noticed a different approach to the war games between a typical Italian guy and a French one? I don't know. My curiosity.
Okay. To be honest, I met few people, few Italian guys.
You prefer the women, I think, the Italian women, I think, Philippe.
No, I prefer the Italian gastronomy.
I see. Wow. Oh, wow.
No, and why? No. I'm joking. There was a fair in Paris 2 years ago before the COVID, and I met Italian players, and I think that we play the same way. I think that what is changing is it's only the topics, the period. I think that all of us, we play World War II. The French people will play mainly on Napoleonic period, and maybe the Italian people, the Italian player will play on the antiquity or Renaissance. I don't know, but I think there is no difference, to be honest, no difference.
Quindi, c'è un approccio analogo, similarities, analogi, cioè ci sono chiaramente, cambia solo magari la preferenza per il periodo storico. Ovviamente noi magari siamo più interessati al periodo antico, perché we are directly affected from the Roman period, loro magari giocano più napoleonico, insomma c'è un comportamento analogo, chiaramente con diversi interessi. E Philippe, but you are a designer. You will become one of the most important French designers in the future, I think, you know. But are you creating something new at the moment, or do you have any idea in your desired drawer that you are developing? What about?
Yes. I'm designing at the moment a game on the Sengoku Jidai period, the Japanese medieval period, you know.
The Japanese period, Middle Ages, I think.
Yes,
Wow.
two battles, Nagashino, 1575, and Shizugatake. Sorry for the pronunciation.
I cannot help you.
1583. So I'm designing these two battles using a system very close to the one developed for the war of religions. You know,
This
is my first design. If you want to translate, because I have other design to explain.
Ecco, considerando che l'interesse sempre per questo periodo 1500-1600 va a toccare il tardo medioevo giapponese con queste due battaglie, Nagashino nel 1575 e poi la seconda battaglia nel 1593. Quindi è questo il suo, diciamo, prossimo wargame, che si basa sul sistema delle French Wars of Religion. I have to study this system. I don't know anything, but it's my word. I'm going to study this new system.
Okay.
E quindi questo è il suo futuro wargame.
Okay, and I have one new game for Varieties magazine using the same system as Cortes. It's very difficult. Yes, it's on the French history. It's on the war for independency of Brittany, end of the 15th century. And then I'm thinking about in a future on a new design regarding the Sixth War of Italy, ending with Pavia. Using this same system as Cortes. Okay. So I'm always thinking about new designs.
Chiaramente avrà questo prossimo, ovviamente ha scoperto sistemi che funzionano, your systems war, so you are developing new of now. Yeah.